Chase knew they wanted to avoid a direct hit if they could. They wanted her alive, a political prisoner, an example to others in her trade. Once she was close to the Jeep, she banked into a sharp circle and accelerated into the curve. She let the back wheel whip around, fighting for purchase, kicking up a large dust cloud. Chase rolled off the bike and used the cloud as cover. She flattened herself to the ground and watched as the two vehicles collided and heard the universal language of surprised grunts. The bike skidded away across the desert floor. As the dust and sand in the air began to thin out, Chase could see that the two armed men had climbed down from the Jeep and started to walk toward the bike. That left just the driver. He had a size advantage. Chase would only get one shot. She took a quick glance to the north and saw that Al-Salif were getting close. They could see her. It looked that they were shouting out warnings, a brief moment of cooperation between two enemy forces. But they weren't near enough to get the message across. Chase climbed to her feet and walked around the side of the Jeep. She grabbed the driver by the lapels and prepared to try to heave him out of his seat, but she could tell she didn't have the strength to pull his weight. He was going to have to do the work. She leaned forward and winked, then blew him a kiss. He shifted his weight and moved toward her, and that gave Chase the start she needed. She pulled him clear of the Jeep and kicked him in the face, hopefully stunning him for long enough to get away. She climbed into the seat just as the two armed men turned around. When they saw her, they started to shout unholy things about her mother and raised their guns. Okay, now they were ready to shoot her. Chase put the Jeep into gear and floored the pedal. The Jeep lurched forward. Chase aimed at the two men, who were polite enough to stand close together, and felt the bone-breaking thud as she drove through them. One fell away to the side, but the other fell toward her. He smacked his head onto the hood of the Jeep, but managed to grab hold and climb forward. Chase spun the Jeep around to head back in the direction she'd been going. She could hear shouting now and revving engines as Al-Salif closed in. They got within range, and bullets hit the back of the Jeep, while the guy on the hood shook his head, gaining focus. He raised his gun and pointed it at Chase's face. She tugged left on the wheel, then right. The guy didn't shake loose, but he couldn't hold the gun steady. He pulled the trigger, and shots flew into the air. Chase heard another volley of bullets from behind, hitting the flatbed of the Jeep and coming in her direction. She leaned to the side, out of the way, as the windshield exploded. The guy on the hood took the hits, his face turning into raw mince as he slid off the side. Chase looked behind again and saw that two Al-Salif Jeeps were close, one on each side of her Jeep, and 3 motorcyclists were coming up between them. With the pedal of her own vehicle floored, Chase was staying just out of reach, but if she slowed down for any reason, they'd be on her. And the bullets weren't all that bothered by the distance between them. Another spray of ammunition lined the floor of the Jeep behind her seat. She pulled left on the wheel and felt something hot burn past her right shoulder as a bullet ripped through the seat. Chase was all out of luck on this one. The next round would hit her. Chapter 2. Traveling through Syria was never easy. Chase had been 3 times since the Civil War started, and each trip had been difficult. None of them had gone this badly wrong. This time, Chase had been joined by Ryan Wallace, an old university friend who worked in the same trade. Treasure hunters. Grave robbers. Whatever. The black market for antiquities had been growing since the invasion of Iraq and the Arab Spring. The ancient world was being crushed by wars, bombs, and climate change. Thrown into this mix were local amateur archaeologists, people digging up their own country for items to sell, raising money to feed their families. Chase and Wallace were part of an elite inner circle of experienced professionals, known on the circuit as relic runners or gold dogs. They could name their price, with bored billionaires and corporations willing to pay through the nose to secure historical items for private collections. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. And it didn't come any riskier than Syria. Coming in had been the easy part. Smuggling was another growth industry, made up of a network of people who would sail up and down the Euphrates, carrying